3:40, local desert time. Camp Buring, Kuwait. You've got a maintenance crew covered in grease, pulling a turboshaft engine out of an AH-64 Apache. It's routine, it's boring. It's a Tuesday night, in a desert that, so far, hasn't felt much like a war zone. But 8 minutes ago, on the other side of the Gulf, several Iranian ballistic missiles cleared their launch rails. They're screaming through the terminal arc at 3 times the speed of sound. And the GPS coordinates in their noses point exactly at that helicopter flight line. At 3:41, the sirens start screaming. Guys are sprinting for concrete bunkers, in their gym shorts and flip-flops. On the perimeter, the Patriot batteries and MPQ-65 radar just found 5 contacts, coming in hot from the southeast. The computers don't hesitate. They ripple fire PAC-3 MSE interceptors, in pairs. Each launch kicks up a cloud of desert dust, lit by a white-hot exhaust trail that looks like a strobe light in the dark. These PAC-3s are closing the gap at a combined speed of Mach 6. They don't have explosive warheads. They don't need them. At those speeds, the missile itself is the bullet. It's like trying to hit a baseball with another baseball, except both pitchers are throwing at 4,000 miles per hour. When they meet, everything just turns to dust. The Patriot crew does their job. They nail 3 out of 5. But 2 warheads are still coming, and the radar is struggling to find them. See, this wasn't a glitch. It was a math problem. The N/MPQ-65 is incredible, but it's a phased array radar. It scans a 90-degree wedge of the sky. Think of it like a high-end security camera bolted to your front porch. It sees the driveway perfectly. But, if someone crawls through your back window, it's not even looking in the right direction. While the Patriot was focused on those high-altitude ballistic tracks, 3 Shahed 136 drones have been humming along at 100 feet for the last 40 minutes. These are basically $30,000 lawnmowers with wings. They've got the same GPS chip that's in your phone, and a 40-pound payload. Trying to find a drone that's small, that low, while a radar is optimized for high-altitude missiles. It's like trying to hear your kid sneak a cookie in the kitchen, while your wife is running a vacuum next to your head. The Patriot was looking at the front door. The drones walked through the basement window. At 3:42, the first warhead hits the Apache maintenance area. You don't hear it first, you feel the air leave your lungs. The overpressure shreds 2 fuselages and collapses the hangar where that crew was working 90 seconds ago. Then, the second one hits the fuel farm. Jet fuel doesn't just catch fire, it blooms. It's a massive, rolling orange ball of heat that punches a black column of smoke into the sky, visible for 30 miles. A minute later, a Shahed drone finds the base command building. It detonates right in the ops center, cutting the base's brain out in one hit. Camp Buring is a wreck. 400 miles away, an IRGC battery commander watches his encrypted screen. He lets himself feel good for about 3 seconds, before he tells his guys to pack up the Fateh launchers, and move. Iranian doctrine says you've got 20 minutes to vanish, before the Americans send a receipt. They didn't realize, the mail was already out for delivery. Down at Ahmed Al-Jaber Air Base, 4 F-15E Strike Eagles are already on the ramp. These aren't your standard air superiority fighters. These are Boeing's heavy-hitting, 2-seat mud movers. They've got twin Pratt & Whitney engines pushing 58,000 pounds of thrust. They're loaded with GBU-31 dams and GBU-39 small-diameter bombs, about 92,000 pounds of "don't ever do that again," spread across 4 jets. It's enough ordnance to remodel every building on the target list, and still have leftovers. It's like showing up to a potluck with 4 crockpots, because your wife told you to bring something small. The Strike Eagles hit the runway with afterburners cooking. Orange cones of fire tear 50 feet into the night. They're heading northeast, and they've got a grudge. You want to hit our guys in their pajamas? Fine. We know exactly where you parked. The build was in the air by 3:53. But there's a problem. The drone footage from an MQ-9 Reaper shows where the launchers were when they fired, but they've been moving for 12 minutes. The coordinates are stale. Luckily, the Strike Eagle is built to solve targeting problems in the dark. Under the fuselage, the Sniper Advanced Targeting Pod is hunting for heat. A warm engine doesn't know it's supposed to be hiding. But at 20 miles out, a heat bloom could be a missile launcher, or it could be a civilian milk truck. You can't just drop a 2,000-pound bomb on a guess. That's how you end up in a headline nobody wants. To get a positive ID, they have to get close. And that means flying into the teeth of whatever Iran has left to protect those launchers. The Iranian air defenses were mostly trashed in the first week, but 90% gone isn't 100%. The 10% that's left, that's the 10% that was smart enough to stay quiet. Enter the Turk M1. NATO calls it the SA-15 Gauntlet. It's a nasty, self-contained SAM system on an armored chassis. It's got its own radar, its own missiles, and it doesn't need to talk to anyone else. It's basically a Ring doorbell with a shotgun attached to it. It sees you, it likes you, and it shoots you, all from the same box. And one of them is sitting right between the Strike Eagles and the launchers. At 4:12, the radar warning receiver in Rage 01's cockpit chirps. It's a 3-second burst from a Turk M1 in scan mode. The Wizzo in the back seat needs a continuous signal to lock it down, but the Iranian commander is being smart. He's pulsing his radar to stay hidden. The pilot makes a call. He pushes the nose down, diving from 25,000 feet toward 15,000. It's a deliberate middle finger. He's dangling the jet as bait. If the tour stays dark, the Strike Eagles get close enough to find the launchers with the sniper pod. If the tour tries to take the shot, it has to stay active long enough for the F-15's radar to trace the signal back to its front door. The Iranian commander bites. He goes active. The RWR in the cockpit starts screaming. The pilot pulls a 6G brake, a turn so hard your vision starts to tunnel and the G-suit crushes your legs to keep the blood in your head. Chaff flares out the back like aluminum confetti. The TOR's missile tracks the chaff for 1 second, just one, and that's all the pilot needs to dive below the engagement floor. The missile screams overhead, missing by a whisker. Meanwhile, the Wizzo is working. The APG-82 radar soaked up that signal and turned it into a GPS coordinate. He designates the target, and drops a GBU-39 small diameter bomb. It's a $40,000 glide bomb, versus a $25 million SAM system. It's not a fair fight. The GBU-39 doesn't care about radar or decoys. It just follows the math. 7 seconds later, the Turk M1 is a hole in the ground. The road is open. The Wizzo pans the sniper pod, and finds 2 long, hot shapes hiding in a ravine, a mile from a tunnel entrance. The launchers. They didn't even have time to unload the spent canisters. Rage 01 drops a GBU-39. 12 seconds of silent flight, and the first launcher becomes scrap metal. Rage 02 rolls in with the heavy stuff, a 2,000-pound GBU-31 JDAM. This thing is a house remodeler. It hits the second truck, and erases everything within 50 meters. The launchers are gone. The escort is gone. But the F-15s aren't finished. They turn toward the IRGC naval compound, the place where that battery commander was celebrating an hour ago. 4 dams drop in sequence. 1 for the command building. 1 for the comm center. 1 for the boat docks. And the last one hits the fuel depot, sending a massive pillar of fire into the morning sky. It was a twin to the fire still burning back at Camp Buring. The IRGC commander was still driving north when he heard the news over the radio. His equipment, his men, and his headquarters had been deleted in less than 20 minutes of flight time. He got his 3 seconds of satisfaction. But the Air Force doesn't leave receipts. They just close the account. So, what do you think? Did the response fit the crime? Or are we just spinning the wheel on a bigger war? Drop a comment and let's talk about it. See ya in the next one.